Hello, welcome to this video. It's all about my second year at university. If you're new to my channel, my name is Anna. I'm a I've just finished my second year. So I'm a psychology student and I'm studying in Poland. In case you didn't know, the course I'm doing is a 5-year course. So the first 3 years is just like general psychology, kind of like a bachelor's. And then the last 2 years is when you like specialize and you do your master thesis or whatever you call it. Nearly halfway through, kind of can't believe that I've already completed second year. It just feels like I was starting my first year not long ago. Now I'm done with second. Just a bit of background, if you haven't seen my first year summary, that video was a bit negative because first year was a negative time for me. A lot of things were going on, it was very overwhelming. If we compare it to now, things are so much better. Before I start talking about everything, I just want to leave this here as like a, I don't know, like a positive kind of thing for someone watching this who may also be at university or sixth form or whatever, and they're also going through a difficult time. Know that it does get better and life is full of ups and downs, and just because things are hopeless right now, it doesn't mean that it will be like that forever. Also, I'll leave timestamps so that if you don't want to hear me talk about something, you can just skip. Oh, and I should say how uni is structured here. So the year is split into 2 semesters. They last kind of like 3 months, and then you have exam season for 2 weeks. However, in a summer semester, you have exam season 2 weeks, and then retakes are usually after the exam season. But in a summer semester, retakes are in September, so you have more time. Also, if anyone has any questions and if I don't talk about something, then please let me know. I'll try to respond in the comments. I'm feeling kind of nervous and I don't know why. Let's just get on with this video. I'm gonna first talk about first semester and second semester. Initially, I was nervous about my second year because seeing how first year went, I just wasn't very optimistic, and the thought of the 5 years that I'm here being like first year, that was not a nice thought. So I obviously was quite nervous. But over the summer, just like quickly, just going back a bit, over the summer I went back to England, and that made me feel, well, that also was difficult being there, but I think it made something click in my brain when I came back in the summer, came back here. I was feeling better and more like myself. I think it was just a time away from uni and from the stress and everything, so the summer really helped to just, I don't know, make me feel more normal, I guess. So that definitely helped. I started the year feeling nervous and worried, but I think the important thing here is to just take it day by day, so that's what I did. The first semester started, and in a quick summary, it was a really good semester. Like, it was normal, and that's what I needed, because life did not feel normal in the first year. So much adjusting, and I hated that. So it just, I felt more settled, and it felt like just normal. I don't know, normal, boring, but that's what I needed really. I had good and bad classes. There were a lot of more things that were focused on the profession of a psychologist, which just really interested me and really solidified the idea that I definitely want to be a psychologist in the future, and that's my goal. That's what I think of when I'm struggling and I think of that future. I just really hope that I'm able to get there and be a psychologist one day. We had a workshop and it was basics of psychological help, conversations and interviews. That gave me so much anxiety because you had to. Other groups had different people teaching, so they weren't kind of forced, but in my class you had to go up and pretend to be a psychologist and kind of play a role, because we were practicing the techniques that I used in that first initial meeting, and I didn't want to do that because social situations make me very nervous, and being in front of a class of like 20 people, I was so scared my name was gonna come up, and the worst class, like, I hated that so much. The content was very interesting and I loved that we got to learn like what it's like being a psychologist, and there was a lot of reading as well. In general, I had a lot of reading this year. I like reading, but if it's in Polish, and it took me forever, and I translate things because there's some language in Polish that I still struggle with. Like, I've been here 2 years, it's still difficult. I won't go really into detail about what classes I had because I don't want this video to be very long, but I had lectures like ethics in psychology, which again focused on the job of a psychologist, so I loved that. We had a lecture on diagnosis techniques and tests, and that was also very interesting. We had the dreaded methodology, and we had a lecture in a class. Not fun, of course. I had the psychology of emotion and motivation, and I had a class and a lecture in that. The topic itself is interesting, but I think the teaching kind of put me off, and the readings. Well, no, I did like the motivation class thing, but the lectures I wasn't very fond of. I think it was because they were like, I had like 3 lectures that day, so I just was not paying attention. But it is an interesting topic. That's the thing, like, I like learning about these things. I don't like doing the exams. I just wanted to kind of learn it like on my own and not have to be like, I have to know this, so I passed the exam. And 2 more, I had a class on developmental psychology, and I was so excited for this, but I didn't like it because there was so much conversation, and it was like a discussion really, and so much reading, and some of the things we talked about were interesting, some of it was kind of off topic, and I don't know, sometimes that was okay, but sometimes it was, I just kind of wanted to know, do I need to know this so I can pass the exam? Like, that was my thought processing. And then I had an optional class or workshop that like there was a couple to choose from, and I chose one which was basically games and group work that you would do with children and teenagers. So that was really fun. It was always on a Friday, and I loved that so much. Like, it was so fun. We just played games and icebreakers and stuff like that. Those are the classes that I had. As you can see, quite a lot of like things related to the profession, so that was a plus, and it was very interesting. Exam season is just never fun, and I hate it so much. Again, obviously I was nervous, and I think at that time I just also anxious about some other things, so it was just stress for like a month. If you have been following my journey so far, you would know that I failed quite a lot of things in my first year, like genetics, and I had 2 retakes in the summer, so I was scared of that, scared of failure. In the first semester I only failed the developmental psychology class test, and I remember the test so well. I felt so prepared, and then in the actual like test, the questions were worded differently, and that is my issue. I learned something word for word, and then like a couple words maybe changed in the actual test, and then I'm lost. I never did Polish exams. I did all my education in England, so I'm still getting used to that, and that's why I try not to be so hard on myself. Like, when I fail something, I try to not associate that with like, oh, it's because I'm terrible at this. Instead, it's like, it's okay, it's understandable, Anna. But I was still scared of failing, and I remember in that test I just was so anxious, and I knew that I failed. So that day I was quite sad, and then when I found out that I failed, like, it didn't make me as sad because I kind of expected it already. But then I found out I got the lowest score in a class, and that just like put me in like a 2-week sad mood, and like made me scared for the other exams I had. And then the retake that I had was just no. So it was like at like 5 p.m. or something, and it was a group setting, so like 5 people went in the room, you were presented with your paper, and you had to kind of answer verbally the questions you got wrong. That didn't help me because, as I mentioned, the wording of the questions, and secondly, I was so anxious. Again, social situations, just I'm not good at them. So I literally sat there for like an hour and I didn't say anything. Everyone left, I was still there. I did speak up a bit towards the end because I just had to. And yeah, so that was a horrible experience, and I was actually there for 2 hours. That's how long it lasted, 2 hours. I did pass. But when it came to actual exams in the exam season, I failed the methodology exam. Again, nervous about it, but I kind of approached it in a different way, and I did pass in the end. So I even got a really good grade, which that just like is the upside of failing, I guess. Although it doesn't count, they don't count it towards your overall grade, but it was just like, you can do this, Anna. It's sometimes you just have to try again. First year video, I did say that I didn't make any friends. Like I already said, social situations, just I'm not good with them, and I think that the move itself and being in a completely different environment just made it worse, because like I freeze up when I want to say something because I think that's gonna sound stupid. They're gonna think you can't speak Polish, so I just don't speak to people. However, in the first semester I actually had people in my classes that I knew, so I definitely was more social, and I did speak to people, and I had to work people, so there's a positive. I guess that's also why the semester felt more normal, because I was still anxious about a lot of things. There was significant, or at least like small change that I could definitely see. So that was first semester, and I was like, oh wow, it's actually pretty normal. And then we have the second semester, which it was again another not normal semester. So we got a bit of normalcy, and then everything changed basically. So when the second semester started, we only had like 2 weeks of actual classes at uni, and like there was no talk of anything like closure or anything like that. So, and then in, I think it was the 11th of March, they announced that unis and schools are shut. First they said only for 2 weeks, and then they just kept saying that all the time. So I actually was relieved to know that at least some of the semester would be spent at home. Second semester was entirely online. I just had like the first 2 weeks of normal classes, but those 2 weeks weren't very, like, I wasn't very happy with them. So I had history of psychology. That was it wasn't what I expected it to be. I don't know, I thought it'd be more interesting. At the beginning it was a bit boring. Towards the end it got a bit interesting, but I really wasn't paying that much attention. Then we had another optional class lecture, although it wasn't optional, everyone had to do it. The social exclusion. It was a very interesting topic, and it's something that interests me, and it's also something important. However, I don't remember much from it because things went online and I just wasn't very focused in my lessons. However, the thing I didn't like was that we had to work in groups of 9 people. I didn't speak to people, so that was difficult for me, and that made me worry a lot. However, because everything went online, we had to actually do quite a lot of group work. I just kind of tagged along with some people, so that was all right. And yeah, we just had to do like a project. I had a psychological lab, which was the first 2 classes that we had. I didn't like. I felt quite uncomfortable in my group, and I did not like that. That again, group work, and I wasn't with anyone, so yeah, I did end up tagging along again with some people. It was a bit interesting. We got to look at like VR, like that was the most interesting thing. And then things went online and we had like online learning. I don't know. And then again we had to design a study and do statistical stuff. That was not fun. I had the psychology of human development again, a lecture and a class. The lecture, it was okay. It just was very intense, but there was a lot of interesting things that we learned about, so that was quite fun. The class, however, I don't even know what to say because that was something. I'm so glad that's over because I don't even know what to say. We had to do all the work. We were given presentations and essays to write every week or every 2 weeks, I don't remember now. And that was a lot. And we wanted to negotiate that we don't have to do an exam if we're doing all this work. They didn't agree on that. So there was a lot of like, I did not like the way that it was organised. It was, I don't know, I'm not going to say anything else because it was just bad luck with choosing the person teaching the class. But obviously I didn't know anything about people teaching, so now I know. Then we had psychology of individual differences. This was interesting. Some things weren't interesting, but some things were. Like cultural differences, that really interested me. The lecture was interesting, but it only lasted for half the semester. And the class, it was also interesting, but there was a lot of discussion, and I don't like to learn in that way. Well, I do and I don't. It's hard for me to like pick out what's important, what's being talked about. Last thing that I had was stats, a lecture and a lab. The lab, again, only lasted for half the semester. We had to do group work for that again. That was stressful again. And then the lecture, it was split into 2. So the first half was with a professor that we had in the first semester. And then the second one was with someone else. And the second half I didn't like because it was so confusing and I don't think I learned anything. Those were the classes that I had. Online, I liked the lectures. The upside of everything is that there were certain tasks that were counted into your grade, such as like labs. They were quite easy to get the top grade in. That was really nice. And now about the exams. So I wasn't that stressed, which was probably a bad thing, but oh well, I didn't feel the stress that much. Probably because A, I was at home in a comfortable environment. B, I didn't have to see people. And C, like exam situations, they just like, scared of them. So all those things were gone, so that there wasn't that much stress. Like online exams, they're quite nice because you could see the results most of the time, like straight away. And that again, it reduced the anxiety of after the exam when you're worrying, oh, did I pass or fail, and like constantly thinking about it. So there was none of that. If you failed, you found out straight away. So not in all cases though. This was just some things, but it was helpful. And I wish like that could be implemented into normal teaching. In terms of grades, my grades definitely improved this year. First semester because there was less failure. Second semester because a lot of things were included into our final grade, such as extra work and so on, so that really did help, and that isn't usually a thing, or it hasn't been a thing in my first year, and I wish it was. Like, I wish that was available like an option. But if you don't do as well in an exam, that they could like, you could do an essay or something to give you half a grade or something. So that really did help. And also the labs, they were quite easy to get really good marks in, so my grades really did improve and I was less stressed about my grades as well. I failed the individual differences test and the developmental test. Well, I didn't fail that. My Wi-Fi went down and I couldn't submit the test, so I had to retake by like speaking about it. The individual differences, I talked about this. I wasn't 100% prepared for that test. I know that was kind of my fault, so I wasn't very stressed about that and I wasn't like very worried. In terms of being social, it was quite nice to be home. I didn't mind that. Obviously there were so many downsides of it, and at the beginning it didn't feel real, so it didn't like sink in my head yet, but I'm someone who plans things and like life kind of was put on pause. I did struggle with focusing and on concentrating, especially towards the end. I just like couldn't. Studying for some things, it was horrible. I couldn't learn them, and I did miss going to cafes and going outside and sitting in the park before a class, and I was really looking forward to that because it's a really pretty park that I like to sit at, watch the ducks and drink my coffee, and I couldn't do that, so that was like the one thing that I missed. Kind of the summary of my second year. And I thought right now I'll just talk about like things that I learned in this time or in this year and how things are different from first year. First year was, I don't want to talk about that again, but it was a very negative time and I lacked motivation to leave the house and go to uni, and that I definitely noticed I didn't really have a big problem with that in my first semester when we could leave the house. I think it may be because winter wasn't that bad here and I hated how I was just not home, and I had long days last year, whereas this year my timetable was really good. That's what also kind of made me sad. Like in my first semester I had a day off, in my second semester I had 2 days off. I didn't get to experience it. So another difference is that I wasn't missing England as much. It was something in my first year that I would think about constantly, and I would compare everything, like every aspect of my life, and I would compare my uni journey to other people, and you shouldn't do that. Whereas this year I kind of stopped doing that. Obviously I still miss England and my friends and the cats and life I had there, but that's something I'm trying to learn, that you're gonna go through changes in life. You can't stay in the same exact place forever. It's probably because I stayed in the same place for a long time, but now like I probably don't want to live here in the future. Maybe go back to England, I don't know, maybe somewhere else in the world, but like that's a thought that I didn't have, like other places in the world. That's the thought I didn't really have like 2 years ago, so I wasn't focusing on the things that were making me sad as much, and a lot of things weren't making me sad anymore. I accepted a lot of things, and obviously there were still ups and downs. There are still things in my life that make me sad if I dwell on them. There are still things that I wish were different. Life isn't perfect. Yeah, if I dwell on them I probably will get sad, but I try not to. I try to, hopefully that's like a good thing and I'll continue this, but I try to, instead of focusing on the bad, I focus on the good things that happened today, and I literally make a list for the week of the good things that happened because it forces me to think about the good things. That's kind of helped. I don't know, I think it was time to adjusting here. I think it took time to adjust here, and I didn't give myself time, and hopefully with more time things will be better. I don't know. So that's something, I guess. I don't know. I feel like this is a ramble, but yeah, so a reminder that things change. That's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing if you're in a sad place right now. It's a bad thing if you're in a really happy place right now, but that's something I learned, that you can't be happy 100% of the time. I don't know why, but I thought that, oh, I really want to be happy in life. That means I would be happy all the time. Why did I think that? I don't know. Even if sad things are happening, you have to be resilient, and I'm trying to learn to be more resilient. I don't know where I'm going with this, honestly. I just kind of want to say the things that I've realised this year. Life is full of ups and downs, and just have to focus on every day. And I did do this last year where I just took it day by day. The isolation also enforced that idea. Also, something I'm still trying to learn and get into my head is that grades aren't everything, and you can't base your worth off your grades. And like, I'm in a dilemma in my head about this, and again, I might make a video about this. I want to get good grades and I can't. Like, my grades were so much better during A-levels, but when I think about it, like, came to the exams, they weren't also amazing. So it's just exams, okay? I hate them. Another thing that I'm still learning is to stop overthinking. As soon as I like feel my brain spiraling and overthinking, I try to stop that. It's difficult, and I think it takes time. I don't know, I'm not a psychologist yet, so I don't know if what I'm saying is true or not. Like with the exams, I was worrying so much, and you either fail or you pass. You pass, that's great. You fail, oh well, try again. I'm rambling for too long now, but those are some of the things that I realised this year. So yeah, that's kind of the summary. I'm just thankful that I'm here, and who knows what will happen next year. I'm hoping it'll be better, even in little ways. I don't know, I'm just happy that I've survived 2 years. I can do 3 more, I hope. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Again, like I said, if you have any questions, let me know, or any other things you would like me to talk about in a separate video, I don't know. So thank you so much for watching this, and thank you so much for all the people who have been watching my videos throughout this university journey. It's a lot of people. I don't like crowds, so I still sometimes think, wow, there are people watching my videos. I try to not think about that. It means so much to me. This channel has definitely been something that was good for me in my first year, because it gave me something to focus on and motivated me to keep going. So thank you for watching.